Okay, Butch, go ahead.
Yes. So it was decided by our leaders as told to them by the institutions like World Bank, IMF, and whoever that we should be a service economy. And from that time on,
Don't industrialize, in short.
the destruction of this concept of trying to industrialize was destroyed. And I have to give if I have to give a date, it started in 1986. No?
Okay.
Because from that time on, we became everything that we had to do, basically dismantled our capability to industrialize. Basically, our capacity for what you call energy development program. The whole energy sector became focused on the importation of oil,
Yes.
and rather
Fossil
than
fuel.
expanding our geothermal capacities, expanding our hydroelectric capacities, and installing and starting the Bataan nuclear power plant. Okay. Now, once you have energy, which is the principal and the basic infrastructure need for any kind of development, you're dead. And the destruction of the productive capability of our country started at that time. And none of the leaders after that, starting from Cory and all the way to today, saw to it that we will continue to become a service economy.
I'll rewind you further, Butch. No? If I recall, then the Marcos administration had certain pillars which would program eventually a backward integration to create an industrial state.
Right. He had the program.
He had benchmarks and identified this
11 major industrial
Politically,
projects.
by the way, I went against Marcos.
Yes.
I mean, but I knew that at that time he had an 11-point industrialization.
11 point. It was
plan.
11 point.
Okay.
11.
And this was being backed up by an energy development program, which would have made us energy self-sufficient by 1990. Right? And instead, the whole thing was scuttled. No?
It made sense. You're saying that regardless of the politics, that was good economics.
It was good economics. It's actually almost commonsensical. No?
Okay.
You're a nation. And why will you have to be able to generate, to be able to feed yourself, provide the jobs and whatever? Why is it that you are going to rely now on exporting your people so that somebody else job requirements will be filled up? No?
Okay.
And you're just exporting people and hoping that they remit their earnings here.
Okay.
For what? So that we can become the market of the rest of the world.
We're not even rewinding as far back as being the #2 economy in Asia before.
Of course. Yeah.
Okay, but let's focus on the ASEAN integration.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah.
Initial reaction.
Well,
The balance
again,
sheet.
I am wholly for ASEAN integration, but again, are we being are we just a market, or are we integrating and maximizing our capabilities to be able to produce things that other markets can, and the rest of the ASEAN can benefit from, and we can benefit from things that they can produce that we cannot. That is the kind of integration we were thinking, all right?
Are we integrating for our national interest? That's what we're saying.
Well, we should, but our national interest should not be in cross purposes as their national interest as well. No? Because we are going to be a community, if at all, of ASEAN, of sovereign nation states, but with the purpose of each one of us developing in cooperation with each other. No? Not that they're taking advantage of our cheap labor because we're cheap, no? Because we're willing to do certain things that their people are already not doing anymore. No? It can't be like that. No? And you will never be able to integrate in that way. And if I may mention the model that these other leaders were using was the European model.
Yeah.
And now at the very present, you can see the whole European community concept and the Euro concept is collapsing.
Okay.
And the countries are going down like dominoes. Right?
Okay, Louis, are we so excited about this whole idea of 600 million possible consumers? The optimism of what if this might be the breakout chance for the Philippines with, joining a big group of
It
nine
could
other countries.
It could be.
There is optimism in this.
It is. There is.
Uh-huh.
In fact, some Filipino businessmen have established factories already in the minor ASEAN countries like Myanmar, Cambodia, Vietnam, Laos.
China.
But China is not part of it.
Yeah,
Like, for example, the case of Oishi. These
Okay.
are snack
Yeah.
products.
Yes.
This guy,
Chan
Carlos
family.
Chan, has started building in these ASEAN countries already. So he has looked into the possibility of being there even before the integration. So that's looking forward and moving forward already.
Should we be moving towards the political areas, or do we leave it simply as an agroupment for economic cooperation?
Well,
Or should we avoid the area of politics?
we cannot avoid politics. That's why in my own initiative, I said there must be a people-to-people relationship.
Okay.
Meaning the ASEAN integration is likened to a wedding,
Okay.
wherein a bride and a groom are supposed to get married, but they don't know each other.
Can't it just be a business partnership and leave the politics outside the door? Because I'm worried that each country has its own political culture, its own understanding of its limitations, and by bringing in the politics into the business table, that might destroy the economic cooperation.
Well,
What do you
George
think?
will probably agree that in business, especially to the Chinese
Yeah.
Chinese culture,
Yeah.
business is business. They don't care about politics.
Okay.
For as long as there is an unhampered movement of goods and services.
So we shouldn't be talking about human rights in terms of
I
this
would
new
say
economic community.
Human rights will even be better because once you have integration, then you can see the difference in let's say
Because
in the benefits of workers.
it's possible that among media groups, especially when they start mingling with each other and talking to each other, they can form associations.
Yes.
And these groups might start making statements vis-a-vis the levels of freedom of every country. And that might be, again, another worrisome area as far as media and the publications are concerned. This is why we are exploring this area of discussion.
I think at this point in time we are willing to agree to disagree.
Okay.
Yes. So
As far as the media practitioners,
Yes.
but the countries that are concerned might not be willing to disagree.
we are willing to agree to disagree. And,
Okay.
Although it has been said that what is the ASEAN identity? It is our diversity. The mere fact that we are diverse in many things, in our culture, in our way of life, it makes us attract each other.
Do you see ASEAN publications coming into the country? I mean, from other countries,
Yes.
especially fashion magazines.
On the other hand, you might see some synergy going on, meaning some of the media companies merging with ours.
Do you see Indonesian television media coming in on a 60-40, observing the constitutional limitations?
If they are not here
Even
yet.
radio, if they've been able to
If
hide
if they are not here yet.
So, do you see this as a robust,
I think so.
Okay. George.
I'd just like to add a few things
Yeah,
to
yeah.
what Louis had said.
Yeah.
In regard to the ASEAN integration, Louis made a factual statement that the development of additional businesses
Yes.
has migrated to countries outside of the Philippines.
With cheaper labor.
With cheaper labor,
better rules.
possibly more stable economic regulations, possibly with cheaper electricity and so many other
Better
things.
risk analysis.
So essentially what has happened there is that we have not taken advantage of it because of wrong policies. As an example,
Yes, okay.
we have a structural problem with our minimum wage law.
Okay.
How can a country like the Philippines, who is less progressive than Thailand,
Okay.
have a minimum wage that I believe is higher than that of Thailand?
Okay.
So parang that doesn't make sense,
Uh-huh.
right? And at the same time, we have 12 million Filipinos out of a job. So, and we all know that increasing the minimum wage does not make job opportunities more abundant.
Okay.
It actually has the negative effect or a different effect. And then, of course, talk about other inputs to manufacturing.
Okay.
Why do other people go to other parts of ASEAN? Well, because aside from cheaper labor, they have cheaper power.
Okay.
There has been studies that show that maybe power is not a major component, it's not the single largest component of any manufacturing industry. But sometimes when you look at industries that make a margin of a few percent, that's enough to make it profitable or not profitable. And they, of course, they can argue that yes, but these electricity rates are being subsidized by the government.
Okay.
Now, again, we're shooting ourselves in the foot by having industry
Okay.
subsidize the electricity rates of the disadvantaged segments of society,
Okay.
the low-end users. No?
Uh-huh.
Now, they say that we don't have the money to subsidize electricity rates.
Okay.
But yet, we have over 60 billion pesos to subsidize the PPP program.
PPP program. Okay.
Now, what is the purpose of the PPP program? It is really to give money to those people who don't have enough income from either a job or other sources of income. And yet, if they had used the money to subsidize, let's say, electricity rates so that it becomes more interesting or more economically viable
Okay.
for companies, particularly in the manufacturing sector, to put up plants here rather than go out of the Philippines to other ASEAN countries and put up the factories there, wouldn't that solve the same thing?
Okay, we're
Right?
going to pause for a few reminders. Part of tourism is, isn't it more fun in the Philippines? Maybe shouldn't business be more fun in the Philippines when we return?